Testing, testing, testing. Just giving a quick test, make sure that we don't have any echoes again in our live stream. We didn't have echoes in the last one, I don't think. So we're doing okay. Let's see here. Testing, 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 testing. Testing, testing. Here we go. Let's hear this. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing. Good. Just gonna get set up real quick, and I'll get started in just a couple minutes. Testing, testing. Leave a comment if there's any problems with the audio. I don't think there should be any echo now. I think we're good. We finally figured out a setup that works with this two-screen sort of thing that we got going on. So, good afternoon, my Greeks and barbarians. Welcome to Byzantine Music 0, week number 6, also known as Unit 6. Because we missed this last week because we've been kind of busy down here at the church, down here in New Orleans. We're covering soft diatonic and soft chromatic modes today, which is appropriate because actually we are in second mode, I think, this weekend. So, should be pretty relevant to what we're going to be doing today. Brought to you by AMP NOLA. This is my little sort of program. I'm getting you to learn for your lives. Learn as best you can this complex music to a level where you can join a chanter stand, analogio, psaltery, however you want to call it, at a church across the country, and be able to hang with the boys and girls. So, let's begin. Soft diatonic, soft chromatic modes, Unit 6, Byzantine Music 0. First, we're going to review, again. So there's 8 modes. 4 regular modes, 4 plagal modes. 4 types of scales. There's soft diatonic and hard diatonic. Hard diatonic is also known as enharmonic, depending on whose theory you're working with, as I just said. And then we have soft and hard chromatic. So soft and hard diatonic, soft and hard chromatic, 4 types of scales. This is not all of it, but this is all you need to know for now. So, our diatonic and enharmonic modes. Soft diatonic will be blue. Hard diatonic, also known as enharmonic, will be red. So, first mode, soft diatonic. Plagal first mode, soft diatonic. Third mode, enharmonic, aka hard diatonic. Grave mode, also known as plagal third mode. It is soft diatonic on zo, and then when it's on ga, it's hard diatonic, also known as enharmonic. And then fourth mode, soft diatonic, plagal fourth mode, also soft diatonic. Do we remember what soft and hard kind of mean? The easy way to remember it is hard diatonic and hard chromatic. Anything that's hard tuned agrees with the piano. It's no microtones. It's all stuff that you can write on the staff without any special, dick-a-dick-a-doo, like any special sharps or flats that aren't typically found in Western music. So that's that. Here's our chromatic modes. Soft chromatic is blue, hard chromatic is red, as usual. Second mode, when you're on the, it's soft chromatic. When you're on vous or pas, doesn't matter which is which, sometimes they'll write them on vous, sometimes they'll write them on pas, it's hard chromatic. Plagal second, when it's on the, again, it's soft chromatic, and when it's on pas, it's hard chromatic. Pretty good rule of thumb, almost always, is that if it's a high chromatic piece, it's soft chromatic. And if it's low and chromatic, it's hard. Hard versus soft. We just talked about this. Hard is tuned basically to Western music. It usually also doesn't have any movable notes. What are movable notes? Notes that basically can be attracted to another note in a microtonal way. We'll get into that in a little bit. Soft tuned modes are always microtonal. The notes are in between the notes on the piano. And soft has these movable notes known as elxis. So here's our examples that we reviewed last week, but we're going to review them again. As you can see, we have these flats that are backwards. Like, what in the world's going on here? Well, this is a microtonal flat. We have a cross here. It doesn't look like anything. It's actually a mini sharp. So it's a microtonal sharp. Natural symbol, flat on the same note. So this is a soft diatonic mode. Because as you can see, the scale changes going up and going down. And has a weird key signature here. Plagal second mode. Now, I know that doesn't look like your typical key signature, right? But as you can see, it never changes, and you know what these are sharps and flats that you can find in anything in Western music. So this is a hard tuned mode, and in this case, it's hard chromatic on Fa, also known as D. So now we have chaos, right? What is this? Well, this is the key signature that we've kind of started using for transcribing soft chromatic into Western notation. And there it is. Oh, look at this, it's F major. So that's got to be a hard tuned mode. And as you can see, it's mode 3. This is hard diatonic, also known as enharmonic. Now, we're going to get into soft tuning, all right? But beware, because Western music, as we know, is divided into 12 semitones. If you go from C up to the other C on a piano, you're going to hit 12 notes in between. That's the smallest notes that exist in Western music, typically. Byzantine music is divided into 72 units. I know. Great. But, luckily for you, usually it's only 2 units at a time. So it's really, most of the time, you really can think of it as divided into 36 units, which means that every single half step, since 36 is 3 times what 12 is, every half step, every semitone can be divided into 3 as well. I know that probably doesn't mean anything to you right now, but it'll make sense. Trust me. So, what does that mean? That means that one semitone, like going from C to C sharp, da-da, Jaws, right? Na-na, na-na, na-na. Or the more fabulous Jaws, the, what is that? The, can't take my eyes off you. Na-na, 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 na-na. That's a half step, right? That's a semitone. So, 6 units in Byzantine music equals one of those. Da-da. So you can theoretically take that one small interval, na, 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 and find 6 more notes in between there. So you usually don't, though. It's usually just used to basically find the general tuning of one of these soft tune modes, and then to determine a little bit of this thing called these notes that are called elxies. So 12 units by that logic. Da-da, that's 12 units because it's 2 semitones. Da-da-da, da-da-da, whole tone. So, welcome to the chaos. I just wanted to let you know those units because that's how we're going to determine. Remember last lesson we talked about how these are wholes and halves. Wholes and halves. But now we're going to talk about it in terms of wholes and halves plus or minus units. Okay? So, soft diatonic, as you can see, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notes highlighted. Because the other 2 notes are actually microtonal. They will be revealed in a moment. But this is the theoretical way of actually writing out the tuning of each scale. So 12, that's a whole step. So between Ni and Fa, or C and D, it's a whole step. So those are both piano-friendly notes, because it's an actual whole step, it's 12 units. But now we have a whole step, but minus 2 units, because it's 12 minus 2, it's 10. So from D to E, Fa to Vu, it's E, but it's 2 units flat. And 2 units is a third of a semitone. So, you can't play that on the piano. But then it kind of corrects itself by going 8 units, this should be a H, let's fix that real quick. There we go. So this is a half step plus 2 units. So now if you just kind of cancel these out, you have whole, whole, half, which will give you this F that's right on the piano. Then you have 12 again, so that's a whole step to G. You have 12 again, that's from D to G to A. So those are all piano friendly. And then you have another one of these whole steps minus 2 units. So it's B, but minus 2 flat. So it's 1/3 flat. And then you have a half step plus 2 units, bring you right back to your Ni, to your C. So these notes are okay on the piano, but these notes aren't. And so what I've done here is I've kind of said, okay, well, it's mostly E, but it's a little bit E flat. It's mostly B, it's a little B flat. So how do we make that sound in Western music? Let's see if we can make it happen. I just want a new blank document. That's all I want. That's all I want in life. There we go, done. So let's draw a C major scale. Right? Do, re, mi, fa, wo, la, di, ga, so, ni. Right? Now, the key signature, is this. Now, what I'm going to do, just to make it easier for everybody, is I'm going to put the accidentals in there anyway. So, that E, and then going up, we have a thing called euxis, which we're going to get into in a second. Now, if you remember on the slideshow, this is what that scale looks like. 2 backwards flats, E and B backwards flat, and then going up, we have a natural, and then coming down, we'll just put a natural here just so that you know it's actually a natural. And then this is, once again, a backwards flat. You don't have to put the backwards flat in because it's already in the key signature, but I'm just doing it so that when we run this plugin, we should be able to run a plugin here. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you a C a couple octaves below so that we, yeah, like that. So this is without the tuning changes. So now what we do is we go and we take, we go to accidental tuner and we apply tunings. Now hopefully that worked. See how it sounds just a little different? Hear it again. See that? Now if I undo that, hear that? That's with all naturals. Now if we go back and we apply all the tunings, listen to it now. So it sounds a little off, right? put the two notes right next to each other. You hear that they almost sound like one of them's out of tune, right? Because they are. See that? So that's what soft diatonic is. And really, honestly, what I would say to you for right now is don't worry too much about getting these nailed. Think of it just as hard diatonic for now, but there is an exception. Watch this. This is the scale when it's going up. Right? But going down, right? So what's happening here? When you're going down, it becomes fully flat. There's your key signature again. Just to be friendly over there. Anyway, so now let's talk about what we just did there, because the mode changed when we went down, and those are called attractions, also known as elxes, traditionally known as elxes, also known as attractions. I got to get my priorities right. This is not an English-centric genre of music, is it? So the notes change. They always agree with your direction, which means that if you're going up, they're going to sharpen. Da 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 da. They'll sharpen when you go up, and then they'll flatten when you go down. They're always microtonal, which means they're going to have small changes to the tuning. It's not going to be massive changes. And they're different in each mode. So even though we have one soft diatonic scale, depending on which mode you're in, you're going to have different elxes. So your basic Zo idea is this in plagal fourth mode. It's kind of natural going up, and then when you're coming down, see how it goes higher when you're ascending. I'll actually highlight that with this. So see how this is sharp, this is natural instead of a flat, so it is sharp. And then going down, flat, natural. This natural is lower than that half sharp. See that? So these are flat going down and they're sharp going up. See that? Make sense? So that's the basic idea of Zo, and that's really the first one that you should know with regard to these things called elxes. There are a lot more, but this is the one you should know for now. So, our review, just what we kind of wrote out here as well. Just listen to it again. Pretty weird, huh? A little bit flat from but just very subtly flat. And if you don't really hear the difference right now, I don't blame you. Sometimes I don't even hear the difference. So, just a quick exercise in plagal fourth. Soft diatonic. So, I kind of should have given you a little bit more than this, because right here, you can see there's a little bit of a sharp here. This part goes something like, Da 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 da. It's sharp going up and then flat going down. So that's the exercise I was talking about. But this was more just to give you an idea of how it sounds, as opposed to going, which would be what you would do if you didn't tune it with these little half flats here. A little bit flat instead of na da da na da da. Almost minor, not really. Approaching minor. But then here's another soft diatonic, but this time instead this is first mode. So first mode is interesting because it has another auxis. This E, the ba, vu, the vu right here, will kind of automatically flatten a little bit. I don't write it in when I do Western transcriptions just because it would be too chaotic to read. But when you're descending down towards ba or D, the vu or E is flattened. So, so instead of going you would go da da da. See how it's going a little bit flat? Na 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 na. It's easy to over exaggerate it, so don't over exaggerate it if you're working on it. If you can't really do it subtly, then just don't do it yet. You're fine if you just go as opposed to doing with the auxis. Very subtle difference. But then you also see here you have another auxis. It's a 2/3 flat, the G. Da na vu ga the instead of vu ga the na 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 na. It's 2/3 flat. Da da na na. This is another auxis. It's in the direction of where it's going. It's going back down towards the ga, and so it's flat. If you were going through it, da 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 da, and you weren't having any attraction to this ga, to this F, then that wouldn't be there. And then the rest of it is still just gets read just as usual. And that's it. Anyway, let's have a really quick review on hard chromatic. Soft diatonic is the hardest one, I feel like. Because soft diatonic has all these little things that can kind of move around, especially when you get into things like aihya. It's debatable how flat people want to put their zos. I tend to put mine really flat. I don't know why. I just like it. And that's flat going up from natural. But then it's completely flat going down. So it's pretty much natural minor going down. And then ga is sharp when you're approaching the. And that's ahya on the, on G. That's if you're singing with us in the Biz Choir at Holy Trinity in New Orleans, that's our cherubic hymn that we're doing. And also the Liturgica that we did last week with Patrick Haddad. It's fun. It's a hard mode though. Like, and that scale in general, the soft diatonic, is hard just because of all those little movable notes. We're gonna get something a little bit easier now. Well, easier in its own way. It also is harder in its own way. So here's hard chromatic. Once again, review. Remember, chromatic is the easiest way to think of it is like this. you have either side of a tetrachord. Ba, the, ba, the, ba, ba, the, ba, ba, ba. And then your notes on either side of the tetrachord are as close as possible to that tetrachord. Ba, vu, ga, the, ga, vu, ba, ba, ga, ba, ga, vu. Oh, sorry. Ba, the, ga, vu, ba, vu, ga, the, ga, the, ba, vu, the, ga, ga. Ba, vu, the, ga, the, na, 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 na. Right? It's the same thing here. Ge, ba, ge, zo, ni, ba, ge, ba, ni, zo, ge, zo, ni, ba. So, ba, the, ge, ba, vu, ga, the, ge, zo, ni, ba. So it's like you have these four notes, and these are on your either side of your tetrachord, and you're just squeezing the notes in, right? That's the idea. So, with that in mind, soft chromatic is the same way, except instead of squeezing them as tight as possible, you just kind of lazily squeeze them in. There's a couple of other things that this is from the Constantino book, the theory book, and there are some interesting things about soft chromatic that are significantly different from hard chromatic. So I don't want to get into that much, because as you can see, this scale doesn't exactly represent the hard chromatic at all. But if we start on the, so if we go the, ni, this is where I would want you to focus. It's between the and ni. The, ka, zo, ni, zo, ka, the. So let's make it hard chromatic. The, ka, zo, ni, zo, ka, the, ka, zo, ni, zo, ka, the. Right? So now let's make it soft chromatic, which is kind of like a half step, right? A half step plus 2. And then in between the ni and zo, it's also like, oh no, in between the zo and the ni is actually just a half step. So, the, ka, zo, ni, zo, ka, the, ka. So instead of the, ka, you make it a little bit sharper. And you basically, the idea is that you want to still have the attitude of a chromatic mode, but it's not tuned so hard. The, ka, zo, ni, zo, ka, the. Instead of the, ka, zo, ni, zo, ka, the. See the difference? The hard chromatic, the, ka, zo, ni, zo, ka, the, is very deliberate, whereas the soft chromatic is the, ka, zo, ni, zo, ka, the. It feels like almost a little lazy, like it's really being squeezed softer than being squeezed harder towards the either side of the tetrachord. But as you can see here, this is something that's a little bit advanced, so you don't need to know this at all, but I'm just going to say it anyway. These notes underneath the solfege notes, the vu, ga, the, ka, zo, ni, pa, vu, see how they just have two symbols, as opposed to here, oh, this one also just has two, but they repeat every two notes. And so actually what this sounds like is vu, ga, the, ka, zo, ni, pa, vu, pa, ni, na, 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 na. It actually repeats, instead of pentachordally, like this, where you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now you have the same shape. It's the same shape every 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But you almost never hear it that way, so just forget everything that I said for the last 25 seconds. Anyway, so the attractions for second mode, and also this is also plagal second mode in when it's in this on the, which is usually in the earmologic, the faster genre. So the will attract ga. So the, ka, zo, ni, zo, ka, the, ga, vu, ga, the. It will attract it sometimes. It will also sometimes attract ge down. which will make it actually sound hard chromatic. Instead of going that's a phrase you hear all the time in second mode. And then it'll go na, and it'll go into ke, soft chromatic. So the entire tuning generally goes hard chromatic when it goes up into the upper tetrachord. So right, na 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 na, it becomes hard chromatic. And also just don't worry about any of this for now. For now, just kind of think of it as da na 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 and try your best. So here's just a quick exercise on second mode, soft chromatic. So that's how it sounds in soft chromatic. If you want, you can also kind of approximate it by working on it with hard chromatic as well. I would personally rather hear somebody sing hard chromatic in second mode on the than to sing because it just doesn't have the same. That just sounds like diatonic. I'd rather hear them go I'd rather hear it, the actual chromaticism. So I'd rather you overshoot the chromatics than to undershoot it. So this is how it sounds with soft chromatic. See how it still sounds chromatic, but you can't quite, it doesn't sound as deliberate. And so that's the tuning. So the bass is the, typically, and as you can see, from the to ge, from G to A, it's a half step plus 2. You could also say it's a whole step minus 4, but I say it's a half step plus 2 because I want you to think of it still as a chromatic scale, but it is a half step, but it's a bigger half step. And then you complete the difference and you have zo, which is a little bit flat, or in this case, as Constantino wrote it, it's actually perfectly natural. So this can actually be a red note if you want. But from what I've understood, a lot of people tend to go more with it being a third flat. And then this turns into 8. So this becomes 14, this becomes 8. And so when you go up to ni, to C, that's still a perfect fourth above the. So like I said, just a real quick recap here. Soft chromatic, think of it as hard chromatic, but not tuned quite as, they're not squeezed so tightly against each side of the tetrachord. So hard chromatic will be and practice that, and then just make those little notes Sorry, let's do it this way. So instead of doing that, you make them just a little bit wider. Make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So we're getting close to the end here. Next unit, we're just going to sight read all 8 modes in both genres, CHROMATIC and ENHARMONIC. We're going to do Kyriak Ekraksa and the Resurrection of Politikon in every mode. And after that, we're going to do a really short unit at the very end about ornamentation. Because you're on your own after that. Anyway, if anybody has any questions, leave them in the comments. And I'll get to it next week. And enjoy singing today, I believe. Let me just check my phone real quick. Let's see here. I think that we are all resurrectional today for Vespers. Let's have a look. And it should be second mode. Let's take a look here. We are, yes, we are all resurrectional pretty much. So you have a lot of soft chromatic that you can do tonight. Have fun. And for my guys down here in New Orleans, we'll see you at rehearsal in a couple hours. All right, see you next time.